Welcome to another episode of the Wolfpack Way, this time with Liz Cruz, who is actually not technically in the Wolfpack, but she is part of the Wolfpack family. She is in my organization. She is an absolute killer when it comes to real estate. Liz is going to talk about how she scaled her business as a new agent from 0 to 15 to 30 deals by the end of her second year. And she is going to be coming through with some amazing advice, information. And the truth is, once you get to know Liz, you will automatically catch on to her determination, her grit, and her hard work that has got her to this point. There is no secret sauce, but she is a testament to hard work pays off. She will go the extra mile and make this happen. So I have the honor of partnering with Liz. She has absolutely taught me the things along her incredible journey. But now you have the opportunity to partner with the both of us. If you're interested in that, please check the link below, book a call, and we would be happy to talk to you about how we can coach you for absolutely free through partnership with us here at our brokerage. So without further ado, let's bring on Liz Cruz. What is up, everybody? As you can see, Liz has popped on, and we are super excited to talk to her today about her experience. She has absolutely taken the real estate market in Northern Colorado by storm over the last 5 years, but ultimately went from 0 to 15 to 30 deals right out of the gate by the end of her second year. So Liz, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How about you?
I'm good. Can you just tell us a little bit about Liz Cruz, where this all came from, where this, powerhouse female that you are originated?
Well, thank you for that. It's hard for me to kind of I just always think it's awkward to kind of talk about yourself, but it's just part of the story. So for me, I grew up about an hour north of Boston. And pretty modest household. And so always kind of had a hand in real estate in one way or another, but mainly because my family would buy a house or my mom bought a house and it was not where she wanted it to be, but it was what she could afford. And so my family is a bunch of hardworking people. And so she took this house and put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it. And, it was a group effort and ended up on HGTV when I was 15 with her as a result. So my family's a lot of kind of military, state employee type background, so not as many entrepreneurial kind of influences. So that's the way that I kind of went first, was for stability in healthcare. But I started buying properties when I was 23 and just trying to build a real estate portfolio of my own and kind of leverage out of some of those tighter financial times that I had experienced in my life prior. So just was a hustler from college through my first purchase, and then just kind of kept going from there. And what really changed things for me was the pandemic. I ended up, being in healthcare, and I was in healthcare sales. Really impacted my job there. And I just kind of took the full leap into real estate and have just really never looked back. And I think for me, across kind of all areas, the biggest things that have really, helped me, but it's just really more of a genuinely, this is how my approach is, and it seems to resonate, is just being a resource to people and just trying to lead with being helpful and of value to them in whatever way that means. And that may not translate directly into a paycheck that day, but that's really not always what it's about to me. It's really about the people and showing up for them and being there in whatever way it is that they need me to be there. And then often it does translate into referrals or into paychecks later on, which is great, but that's just not always the only focus for me. And I think that people feel that.
Yeah. Well, that's incredible if you kind of unpack that a little bit, from just having a home, creating that, your mom working hard to create that stability for you, although it wasn't the dream home, whatever it is, to being on HGTV, right? That's absolutely kind of the same process that you've just repeated a few times over, from your investment strategies to your real estate career. Obviously, starting during the pandemic was probably something that was a little bit worrisome at the time, but just kind of did the things and pushed through. When did you get your license based on when the pandemic started?
Yeah, so I got my license. I think I got officially licensed, like passed all the boards and did all the things. It was like end of July, early August of 2020. And yeah, I was absolutely running scared. Like I had been in stability, like very stable industries before with lots of great benefits and all these kinds of things. So taking that leap was terrifying. I think for like honestly, probably the first 2 years, I was just kind of running scared there for a while, but it's kind of like a no risk, no reward. But right at the cusp there is when I got licensed.
Right. That was wild. That's when we were starting to kind of figure out what was going on, but had no idea what was going to happen. Right. I remember that summer closing deals from my office chair in my house, and I was like, this might be all right. Yeah. So that's incredible. Obviously going through that, obviously when you're taking the test, studying for the test, when everything is so uncertain, you still had, your experience in the investing side. And I think that's, kind of where it happened. Turned out it was a really good time to get licensed. So let's talk a little bit about that scaling, right? So it was 15 deals in your first year. Is that, accurate?
Yeah, so my first full year, I was still full-time in healthcare. So I overlapped for a little while. And so my first full year, I had 15 deals while doing healthcare full-time.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about your days, because a lot of people, when they get into this industry, they're told, it's not a promised paycheck, all the things. And you were able to have a full-time job, have 15 transactions in their first year. And obviously that was probably an amazing boost to your income. If you have the full-time job, you have the paychecks coming in as well as that. Talk a little bit about what your day looked like when you were doing the dual career thing.
Yeah, it was a weird time because also, if you remember, in Fort Collins, we had the Cameron Peak fire. So you'd wake up and it looked like you lived on Mars. So it was like very apocalyptic. So it just felt very weird during that time, the longest time with all the smoke coverage and all of that too. So a lot of times for my healthcare job, I was doing senior care sales. And so I wasn't able to go in and see my patients and the families that I would normally be seeing. So it was a lot more remote work and having to kind of get creative with that. And then on the real estate side, I was trying to balance all of that. So there's a lot of late nights. There's a lot of just kind of trying to, one, understand the market, understand what I'm supposed to do, because I had a background in real estate investing, and that's how I started. There was a lot of kind of real estate basics that I understood from like the client perspective, and the rest of it is like, well, I can learn this. So I would do a lot. I would sit down and really study the market on the MLS. I would drive through neighborhoods. And then I've really used like social media has been a huge part. I think when you're starting out, it's expensive to get into real estate. People say they want to get real estate for flexible hours and kind of all these things. And it's always kind of cracks me up because I'm like, if you think flexible hours means flexible hours, it just means you work all the time. So for me, I love that. Like I love working, and the best way for me to get my first leads were through social media. And so I had a decent network, and I just tried to, start to rebrand myself in front of my sphere through social media, and just posting when I would go tour a house or make a post about a listing. Even if it wasn't mine, I'd reach out to that agent and say, is it all right if I highlight this, and just start being in front of them and being top of mind. That was one of the biggest things that helped for me. And then also a lot of my sphere knew I was in real estate as an investor. So then I would just kind of reach out to them and talk to them about real estate in general, or just be like, hey, if you need a connection for a refinance, if you're looking for a contractor, like things that may not be like transaction related, but I still just wanted to come from that place of always being a resource and helping to make it easier. And those just really translated to leads.
Right. And that goes back kind of to the original story, right? Being a resource, using your resources, getting what you can, and showing up. So that's great. And I do remember those times, like go outside, wear a mask, get like all the smoke and all that stuck in your lungs, and do those things. So that was quite the time. But obviously the fact you were in senior sales, that was when, no one could approach them or get within, that space. So that probably played to your advantage a little bit, being able to do remote. But I don't envy you for trying to connect with senior people that work with seniors on technology, for sure. So let's talk a little bit about the transition, right? When was it like, okay, I can set this down, I'm going all in? What was that moment like? And what was kind of your emotions and what were you feeling at that time?
Yeah. So in 2021, my healthcare, so my pay structure with my healthcare job was I had a low base that really wasn't like a livable base, but it was just kind of had that foundation, and most of my income was commission. And so by the time kind of mid 2021 rolled around, my commission was really like dropping significantly. And so for me, like, single person, like I don't have a spouse to lean on, there's no one to pay my bills for me. So I started seeing momentum picking up in real estate and momentum slowing down in healthcare. And so that was really, I'm a really big advocate for just like, don't force things. Like, even if this isn't your life's plan, like pay attention to what's coming easy, like what doors are opening, and then walk through them, because it's happening for a reason. And so that's what I really felt during that time, was that although I have a master's degree in healthcare administration and I'd been in healthcare for 10 years, and I always thought that I would be in the healthcare field in some way, there was this whole other avenue that was really like, I was just feeling very pushed and like gravitating towards that. And so I just kind of started focusing on that. But it was very scary. So I ended up quitting my healthcare job in October of 21. And I still talk to the owners of that company to this day. It was a really hard decision to make. It was a tight-knit little mom and pop's owned company. So I felt a lot of guilt, and I felt a lot of guilt leaving my clients and patients in that field that I felt like had such great needs. But ultimately, there kind of comes a time where you can only kind of push that boundary so far. And so I just ended up going full-time in real estate and had a pretty huge life transition at that point. And just basically waking up every day feeling like I was going to be homeless. So I would just try to work on whatever I could, and helping out other agents if need be, doing showings for them. And all the while, every activities I was posting on my social media stories to let people know that, hey, I'm working, I'm out here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so, for you, it kind of felt natural, right? The income was slipping over here, didn't have kind of, that stability coming in. So you're like, boom, right into it. And I love the analogy of, when pay attention to what doors are opening and walk through them as we go. So then you take off, you do 30 deals kind of in that second year. Mm-hmm. Tell me about that. Was it just kind of hair on fire? What was working for you then? Obviously you had stepped away from the base, albeit maybe a small base, but that's still a jump, I would imagine, in your situation. So what was that like, stepping into the fire, let's go, and then reaching 30 deals, which is, top 1.5% for sure in our market and probably across the country. So what was that like? How did we get to 30 deals?
Yeah, it was definitely like a baptism by fire kind of thing. I mean, I have some friends in the real estate business and things like that I could call for some help, but truly I was widely on my own for a good bit of learning that. I don't want to downplay too much some of the resources that I had, because I do have a couple of really great friends that are like top agents in this area, but they were also very busy at that time also. So for me, it was, a lot of kind of figuring it out on the fly. But what I think really connected me with a lot of clients was I'm very much like an outside the box thinker. If there's a workaround, like I'm going to find it. So I really focused on making strategic partnerships with other kind of outside the box thinkers in my market. So lenders, different contractors, different opportunities for clients if they need to fix up a house or renovate before they sell, but they don't have the cash on hand, trying to find ways to kind of work around these common problems. And I think that still kind of comes back to that kind of pillar for me of being a resource and being resourceful. I think when you grow up with not a lot of money, you just have to do that. You have to figure out how to use what you have and make it happen. And so a lot of my clients, during that time, especially I think for a lot of agents when they're starting out early in their career, you're working with a lot of first-time home buyers. A lot of times those people that are trying to get into that first rental property or just that first home in general. And so they don't always have their 20% down and a super clean credit history and all these things that are just like picture perfect to get into a home. And so you have to get creative. And I also think too, I've never really viewed my colleagues, other agents as competition. To me, if I'm going to be successful, it's going to be because I'm doing what I need to do. It has nothing to do with what they're doing. So I'm always in their corner to be, I want to see you be successful too, but I also view them as partners. And I just think that you don't get anywhere in scale without partnerships. And I was fortunate to become aligned with a couple agents that we had really great partnerships and working and sharing a couple clients that were pretty significant, that were in some specialized areas of development, and farm and ranch and things like that. And that really just allowed me to kind of grow my skill set in some other areas of the market as well. So I think in general, I see a lot of agents who have kind of like a limiting self-belief where they don't think that they can grow into a certain niche or grow into a space, or I'm only a 2-year agent, so I can't hit double digits on production or whatever it is. And I just think you just have to get out of your own way. There's a saying that the most expensive thing you'll ever own is a closed mind. And I just think that is so true.
Yeah, absolutely. Ed Milet talks about that often on his podcast and so on. I've heard him say it on stage several times probably. So that is absolutely incredible. Really interesting because that's always been kind of my approach, right? I've said it on this channel multiple times. I've always operated that it's just partnership, right? If I'm spending time with another agent, I'm learning something, they might be learning something. And, hopefully, it could lead to a sponsorship, here with us at our brokerage. It could lead to, just the agent getting a deal under contract, right? I don't know how many times, I've gotten involved in a bidding war with a buyer and, they're like, Jeremy, the offer was written well. We know, your reputation. So your reputation truly precedes you. And I'm sure that some of those partnerships, we're learning from you, just as I have, from you in the short time that we've been in contact. No matter what the experience level is, the home sold, any of the, accolades, you can learn something from every single person and what they're going through. So let's talk a little bit. Let's transition to your recent transition to EXP. Why EXP at this time for your career?
Yeah, so I was actually at EXP previously, kind of during actually that kind of crazy bubble of that second year there. And two, if you recall, that time of year was crazy bidding wars and having to compete and getting creative. And I came up with some pretty cool clauses that were helpful. So kind of that outside the box thinking kind of thing. But I was at EXP then, and I really didn't plug in. I truly was in a great upline. I was in Tina Call's line, and she's amazing. I just personally was not investing. I wasn't taking the time. And so for me, I started to feel very disconnected. I felt kind of siloed. And the agent, good friend of mine that I had joined underneath at that time, she had just had her second baby, I think like 15 months apart from her first baby. And like, she just wasn't in a place to support me as a greener agent. So I ended up leaving EXP to go to a local brokerage, little boutique brokerage that was great for me. Really helped me grow my career in the ways that I needed at that time. And then I ended up kind of hitting another, I'd say kind of like plateau, where I just didn't feel I was getting the support I was needing, where I was wanting, or the opportunities. I would, very rarely ask for help, but when I would reach out for help, it just wasn't as like implementable as I really needed it to be. Like, it's not something that for me, I'm very specific. And if I'm reaching out for help, it's because I've already thought about like, the big kind of broad strokes. I need like a little bit more specific input. And I just wasn't getting that. I was feeling like, I was this kind of mid upper tier agent that was kind of falling through the cracks. Like, there was the big agents that had their own systems, their own staff, their own teams. And there was the new agents where there was, opportunities to learn and for trainings and things for them. But there was kind of this gap for agents that were seasoned, but wanting to grow. I also just felt like I started looking at the value proposition of what I was paying to be at that brokerage versus what I was getting out of it. And they're a very reputable brokerage, very respected. But for me, it just started to not align with what I was doing or where I was wanting to go, and getting kind of frustrated with always being in that 30-day cycle and wanting to say like, how do I build from here? Like, how do I get more streams of income and have more stability? That's something that's really been what I've been seeking these past few years. Like, ever since I turned 30, I'm like, yeah, probably should settle down a little bit. So I've been looking for ways to do that. And I've done that in my real estate career. Sometimes I've worked into equity partnerships on larger jobs, and I had rentals that I've since liquidated, but I really wanted to find something that was really sustainable in terms of like my time, money, energy output that would also help grow and support my production business, as well as allow me to grow in being a resource to others in a way that wasn't currently available where I was at that time.
Yep. And so you hear a lot of creativity going on in Liz's brain there, right? Talking about equity partnerships within, transactions and all of those things. And sometimes, it's not about, hey, this is the managing broker, they have to give me all the answers. It's about the steps, right? And having people that you can connect with and collaborate with, that you can bounce ideas off of. And having 2 or 3 or 7 is always a thing. And EXP's model happens to offer that. About the same time that Liz came to the brokerage, co-sponsorship was launched. And talk to me a little bit about co-sponsorship, what you originally thought of it, and how you've kind of come around to this idea of being an absolute game changer for your business.
Yeah. So like that whole time earlier this year was just wild. Just so much changed during that period. So I came back to EXP in March and was just really excited. We have, during the time I was not at EXP, we've grown a larger presence in my market. So there's just more agents. We have a physical office. There's just more. So for me, it felt like that was definitely the push. It felt like the right time for me. And I had been toying with the idea for a long time. I had been in contact with my direct sponsor, Chris Mullenberg, for probably a year and a half, but didn't feel right. And then all of a sudden it's that other feeling where it's like doors are opening, momentum's pushing me this way. Like now this is the time. And so made that change. And then very shortly after they announced co-sponsorship, and I didn't really know what that meant. Just kind of getting back to brokerage and getting my feet wet. And actually part of what like pushed my change was that another agent in my brokerage at that time was also considering cloud-based brokerages and looking at those different options. And so we had connected because we were looking at the same types of things, and she was like on fire, ready to go. So I was like, well, shoot, I guess this is like baby bird leave the nest, like you got to go. So made the switch. She came over to And then shortly afterwards, the co-sponsorship was announced, and it's like, well, what is that and how does that work? And I had another relationship with another agent locally here who I've known for years. And she was considering EXP as well. And she was also talking to you. So I'm like, who is this Jeremy guy? And what is going on here? And all of these kinds of things that I'm trying to understand it, and talking to my upline, and like co-sponsorship as a whole is just a completely new concept. And in theory, it sounds pretty simple, but when the ripple effect kind of comes in, there's a lot of considerations to really look at and to make sure that it's the best for that agent, and that I also understand my role and all of those kinds of things. So it was one of those things where, like, when we were at the Denver rally, like you and I were on stage together, and I'm like, who's this guy? Like, who's, like, I didn't know if I liked you at that point. But then I think it's all about education, right? Like a lot of times when things are new, and people are scared, it's usually from a place of ignorance. And that's certainly where I was, but I also am always somebody that's open to be educated. So I recognized my lack of knowledge in that and wanted to better understand how that works. And it really wasn't until you really look and map it out and see like how this functions, why this works, how this benefits the agent first and foremost, and then the sponsor and co-sponsors as well, and really just is able to kind of like harness the power of two agents and like a powerhouse down upline, and be able to really help that agent get the exact ingredients that they're looking for their specific recipe. And it's been awesome. Like I've done co-sponsorship even out of state, with agents that are interested in being involved in land and ranch, but they have a local relationship there in their market. And so it's just really opened the doors to, I think, check more boxes for more agents on what their needs are.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, you know, I've heard a lot of the people that were in on the creation of it, and it's almost like, you know, having two parents instead of one, right? And the value stack that, you know, is created, right, in the new EXP 2.0 value stack, right, where all of us as agents are creating, you know, value for other agents, and it allows you to kind of mix and match and kind of a la carte your own upline into an actual value stack, which it didn't need to be for the first, you know, rendition of EXP. But now as it's changed, people understand what EXP is. They've been, you know, told or pitched overly to EXP, which is not how we roll. You know, it just, now it's about what value, right? Now people are sponsor shopping, and now with co-sponsorship, they're really sponsor shopping. They're going to the mall instead of the outlet, I guess, or whatever. So that's really cool. So let's talk a little bit about your, you know, transition from, okay, like I need to focus on my production, I need the steps, I need all of this, to then bolting on something completely different in RevShare, which, you know, certainly was on your horizon and vision. But why the RevShare, you know, excitement at this point? What will RevShare do for Liz Cruz's, you know, life stability and work ethic?
Yeah, I mean, it's already done quite a bit. And I think what it really does is, I mean, it's just allowing me to invest in other people in a way that I've always really done, but it's, you know, it incentivizes you. So for me, you know, I was captain of my basketball team growing up. I mean, I was always, even when I was in middle school, I was teaching basketball to kids younger than me. And so that was like, being in those types of roles have always been kind of natural to me. And being in a leadership form in one way or another. So I think for me, I've always been drawn to that. And up until this point, it's like, I don't know that I've felt that I had enough experience in my real estate career to be able to really speak and pour into other people. But I think that's kind of where like my next chapter is going is, yeah, I don't know everything at all, but I do know a couple things that I do well. And, you know, if that's helpful to somebody, that's great. Like you don't have to have all the answers. And so I think for me, the ability to have sponsorship and ad support and help, agents build out their systems and grow in new ways is really exciting to me. While also maintaining my production, because ultimately, like, that's what I love. Like, I love being in production and I love being able to help other people in all these different ways, but I also love being challenged. And if I get bored, that's really been the only reason why I've ever left jobs in the past was, including like a brokerage change, is that like, I'm just not being stimulated enough. And so I think for me, it's just opened up a lot, like a whole nother vein. And like I said, stability is really a big thing for me. I have a mortgage that's not a rental. Like I have to pay this one. So I have to kind of look at that. Helping my family has always been kind of at the core of, my whole life and adult life, and wanting to be able to support them as well. And so RevShare is just an amazing opportunity. I'm already seeing some of the benefits of it. And I just see it as such a way to help learn from other people. That was one thing with, Siobhan, when she came over, is she's an OG killer agent, and it's not always what can be provided to her, it's what she also provides. And so I also see RevShare as an opportunity to learn from other people and selfishly kind of like grab them and be like, I want to be in your presence, as well as having the opportunity to pour into others.
Awesome. Yeah, that's kind of where it's at. And I love what you said there. The basketball captain analogy is so relevant, especially at the high school level, right? Because you're just a peer, but you're recognized for your accomplishments. Maybe you have a little bit more leadership responsibilities. There's still a coach, there's still a referee, there's still rules. Mm-hmm. But being a captain, and, sometimes it's just being the hype girl, right? Getting people ready to go. Sometimes it's, calling people out when they're not getting there. And that leads us to kind of, something that we talked about this week, that you're creating, right? And it's going to give back. And, throughout your story, there's so many times where you've selflessly been like, okay, we got to go this route, right? Those doors aren't opening by accident. It's because, you've selflessly gave, whether it's the family side, whether it's the, other agent relationship side, whether it's the equity ownership pieces, you're like, okay, I'm going to step up and I'm going to do this and I'm going to serve and we'll figure it out. Right. And so the ability to do that and have a servant heart on that end, and then have, the leadership to, teach others is absolutely incredible. And RevShare is going to give you that opportunity. So talk a little bit about your 30 for 30 challenge, kind of what that's going to look like for the agents that you serve, whether they're, 100% right here, ready to partner with you, or maybe just kind of trying to get a taste of what Liz Cruz leadership looks like. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, and I think too, it's important to talk about when we talk about RevShare and co-sponsorship and all of that, that it's like, it doesn't work without production, right? Like, you're speaking at a bad rap that it's a recruiting brokerage. Well, you don't get RevShare payout if the agents aren't in production. So we are a selling production company that also just facilitates so much collaboration to help support that production and work-life balance and systems within each other, because you're incentivized to do so. And so for me, that's really what that is kind of looking at, is, these 30 for 30 challenges. I did one earlier this summer where I just went live on my story every day for 30 days, even if it was for a minute or a while. A lot of times it kind of turned into my car thoughts while I was driving. So maybe don't do it while you're driving, but sometimes that's where I have my best ideas. So it's just being able to get on there and connect and be personable. Not everything is super polished and like perfect all the time, but I think for a lot of people, it's about just getting out of your own way and doing it. Like, done is better than perfect every time. And so the 30 for 30 challenges I'm going to be setting out different challenges every month for agents to help, to participate in if they want to, and just having open office hours or really office minutes, I should say, probably for, 30 minutes in the morning. That open Zoom link, come hop in, talk to me about your 30 for 30. If it's just like an accountability, you need somebody who's going to be able to be there that you can be accountable to. Cool. I'm happy to be that person. If you have questions or support and I can be a resource for you, great. I may not have the answer, but I may know somebody who does, or maybe I've worked that same problem before and can help you as well. But I think ultimately that these 30 for 30s are going to be ways to be able to expand your sphere, stay in front of your sphere, be more consistent, grow your production. I mean, that's really where the foundation, that's why we're licensed. That's why we're in real estate. And sometimes I think for agents, it's just kind of like you feel like you just don't really know what to do. And it's helpful, like if you go to a new gym, rather than just you going and working out, you go to a gym that has classes and you just show up. And this may not be an exercise that I would normally do, but if the class is telling me to do it, so I'm just going to trust the process and do it. And I think sometimes that's the best way to kind of break if you're in like a plateau or you're kind of stagnant, that's kind of the best way to break through those, is to just do something outside the norm because it's being directed to you, and just embrace it full on and see what happens and how that impacts your business and your income.
Yeah. And implementation and execution is so important in our kind of serial learning, right? YouTube University generation, you can sit and learn. You can take this course and you can buy this and you can go to this webinar. And the only thing that's going to separate you is not watching all of that and being that educated. It's the implementation that comes along with it. Yeah. So I absolutely love that accountability piece. I love throwing out the challenges. And this is someone who has been in your shoes, most likely, right? I have conversations all the time about, agents, hey, I just need to put food on my table. I have to work this job. And, that's kind of their norm. And they get in this dual career kind of situation, and they're not putting enough time into execution over here on the real estate side to make enough money to build the nest egg to do those things. Liz has done that, right? There's also agents who, have been in the industry for a long time and maybe had a couple really good years, and then it, fell on hard times or something happened. And now you're considering like, okay, should I continue to do this? This is that door opening for you as an agent. So we will put Liz's information in the bottom so that you can absolutely plug into that first 30 for 30 that's happening here in September, or October. We'll see if we can put it together in time, but definitely reach out and give this a chance, because it's going to be absolutely incredible. So Liz, anything else on that before we ask the final question here?
Yeah, I think just it's brokerage agnostic, so it's just for anybody. And I think it's just one of those things that if you're in a rut, like none of this stuff is going to be it's not going to cost you anything. And I think that's the other thing that it comes down to. Like in this industry, there's lots of people and companies that will take your money happily. But there is something to be said about just kind of bootstrapping it. Like there's also a lot of free or just effort-based activities that agents can be doing to help grow their business. And for me, that's how I've built my entire business. So that's the whole goal here is it's like, what are the free activities? What are some things that you can be doing? So I'd encourage anybody, if you're looking to just do something different, shake things up, looking for accountability, that's exactly what this is going to be for you, just to kind of get out there and try something new and really commit to the 30 days and see how it changes your business, if it changes your business at all, or you just feel more comfortable maybe being on camera or whatever it is for that month's challenge. I would just say, you have to commit is the biggest thing. You have to commit, you have to show up, and you have to actually put in the effort. So I don't know if I can cuss on here, but like you can't half-ass it. You got to full ass it, like full ass that. So
full ass that. I love it. We're good to go there. Perfect. And we comment 30 for 30 below. We'll get you that information. If you can't find her information, which is there, we'll get you that information. So Liz, as we kind of tone this down, wrap it up, when the dust settles, what do you want to be known as for your agents, from your clients, from your family that I know is so important to you? What's that going to look like?
Yeah, it's always hard. I'm a very driven person. I love working. My whole family's that way. Like I'll never not be working. So I think for me, want to be known for being a people first type of person. It's never money over people, it's people over money. And so I think being, people centric is something that's really important to me. I am not your warm and fuzzy person. Like I am your tough love person. Like I am the friend that gets called when somebody knows that they did something they probably shouldn't, and they want some actual like heartfelt, compassionate, but honest advice. Every one of my friends will tell you that. And so I think being people centric and being authentic and loyal and just there for people is like that's like for me like box one. And then I think box two is I'm very hardworking, and I feel like one of the worst things you can say about somebody is that they're lazy. And so for me, that's kind of number two, is just being a hardworking person. And I think those two ingredients translate to financial success a lot of the time, but it's not necessarily about that. Like I seek stability, and I think for me, there's never a number that I want to earn to be like, oh, okay, I'm good now. Like there's no ceiling on that, because I always see it as a way that if I made all the money in the world, that I now have more. That's just a tool to me to be able to harness and to help for my family and for other applications. Like it's never something that is limiting to me in any way, positive or negative. It's always just, I see financial things more as tools as it is as like a possession. So for me, it's about people, it's about working, and that spurs into hopefully financial success that you can then implement in your life and in ways to have a positive impact for yourself and for those around you. So that's the name of the game.
Sounds like those accountability calls are going to be fire. That's what I heard there, which is awesome. So, Liz, let's round this out. Where can people find you? Where, can they connect with you, Liz Cruz, the realtor, the person, and the all-around hardworking accountability partner?
Yeah, I mean, just Google my name, my phone number is everywhere. But my Instagram is at Liz Cruz Real Estate, Facebook at Liz Cruz Real Estate. My business Instagram is freely open, so I'd encourage you to add me on there and DM me. And if I see you in public, I do have a chronic RBF. So please say hello if you're in my local market, or I see you at like an EXP event or something like that. Don't be deterred by my inadvertent RBF sometimes. Apologies in advance. But yeah, just reach out on social media is probably the easiest way to connect. And I'm just happy to meet more people and learn from you all, and hopefully give you some value as well.
Awesome. We'll put all that information below as well. But Liz, thanks so much. Keep crushing it. Again, 0 to 30 transactions in a single year by year 2 is absolutely incredible. And you continue to push the norm, listing a gold mine here in the coming future. That's going to be absolutely incredible. So thanks so much for your time today, and we'll see you next time on the Wolfpack Way.
Thank you.